Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. Ian pushes Mariah to abduct Dominic, Sally done with Billy. Ian Ward will push Mariah Copeland to abduct Dominic Winters while Sally Spectra decides she's done with Billy Abbott's bummers. At Crimson Lights, Audra Charles will run into Amy Lewis and seek remission. Amy will hear Audra out, but also Audra will lie about her history with Holden Novak when he pops up. Audra will play down it like nothing really happened in her history with Holden, but Amy will know she's lying. That'll sting after everything they've been through, so Amy will snap that if Audra wants remission also she has to earn it. After Amy stomps off, Audra will dispute with Holden until Sally comes on and interrupts them. Sally will quiz Audra about whether Holden is holding commodity over her, but Audra will want to bandy Sally's problems rather. Sally will offer updates on the Chancellor situation and hint about Billy letting her down for the last time. Now Sally will be ready to communicate Jill Abbott and assemble her own platoon to cover Abbott dispatches, which means trying to get Jill on board with Audra as a new hire. At Society, Abby Winters will talk to Devon Winters about the attack on Newman Enterprises before the discussion shifts to Lily Winters and how she was surprised over Kane Ashby's rearmost move. Abby will talk about meeting up with Devon latterly since they'll plan to take Dominic ice groaning with some musketeers. Once Abby takes off, Devon will catch up with Nate Hastings and question him about the nature of his relationship with Victoria Newman. Nate will make it clear that neither one of them is ready to date again. After Nate meets up with Amy next, she'll give him news on her Audra run-in. Part of Amy will still feel for Audra, so she'll question Nate about where he stands. Nate still wouldn't trust Audra and wouldn't be looking for love at this point, but Amy will want him to find happiness again. At the Domain Cafe, Abby will have hot cocoa with Dominic while they stay for his musketeers and Devon. There'll be some talk about how Dominic didn't grow inside Abby, but she still has a lot in common with him and thinks he's super cool. In Mariah's motel room, she'll write in her journal and suppose about how she doesn't earn the good effects in her life. Indeed, if Mariah tried to go back and pretend, she'll feel like Tessa Porter and Aria Porter Copeland would see the verity. Mariah will realize she doesn't have her old connections on her new phone, but she'll still know the one number she needs. Mariah just wouldn't be sure she should use it, but she'll eventually call Abby's phone. Abby will notice the unknown number and answer just in case it might be the parent of one of Dominic's musketeers. Mariah will hear Abby's voice on the other end of the line before hanging up without saying anything. Ian will appear to Mariah and wonder why she'd do that. Mariah wouldn't be looking for another lecture, but Ian will contend on offering further guidance. Mariah wouldn't be sure about the idea she preliminarily decided on, but Ian will contend it's the right time and needs to be. Ian will contend he's there to make sure Mariah sticks to the plan. After Mariah heads to the Domain for some espionage, she'll return with filmland that she's snapped on her phone. There'll be prints of Dominic with Abby and Devon as well as snaps of Dom alone. Ian will play up how Mariah made that family possible and will refuse to let her back out when she's so near. Although Ian wouldn't specify what he's pushing Mariah to do, it'll be egregious that a Dominic hijacking is about to go down. Back at the Domain Cafe, Devon and Abby will happily enjoy some cling time with Dominic after his ice skating session. Buckle up, because Genoa City is heading straight into preoccupation, treason, and a hijacking that feels horrifyingly ineluctable as Ian Ward tightens his cerebral grip on a fragile Mariah Copeland while Sally Spectra eventually reaches the end of her rope with Billy Abbott's endless bummers. The day begins with a deceptively ordinary buzz at Crimson Lights, where Audra Charles suddenly crosses paths with Amy Lewis, a meeting loaded with undetermined history and the kind of pressure that no way truly fades. Audra, easily steeling herself, seeks remission for the history, offering precisely chosen words and a performance of sincerity that nearly works. Nearly. Amy listens, arms directly crossed, wanting to believe that Audra has changed, wanting to recognize everything they've survived together. But when Holden Novak suddenly appears, the mood shifts incontinently. Audra pivots, brushing off Holden as nothing further than an old familiarity, playing down their history as insignificant and long buried. Amy, still, knows Audra too well. She sees the deviation, hears the deletions, and feels the sting of treason cut fresh and sharp. That taradiddle, so small on the face, hits harder than any once mistake, because it comes after Audra asked for remission. Amy snaps, her voice edged with disappointment, telling Audra that remission is an commodity you ask for while still hiding the truth. However, she's going to have to earn it, and with that, if Audra wants it. Holden wastes no time needling Audra, their bickering revealing a messy, undetermined dynamic neither is willing to admit out loud. Before it can escalate further, Sally Spectre weigh in, seeing trouble the moment she clocks their body language. Sally cuts straight to the point, asking Audra if Holden is holding commodity over her, if there's influence at play that could explode laterally. Audra deflects again, turning the focus onto Sally rather, and that's when Sally lets her guard down just enough to reveal the verity Billy Abbott has let her down for the last time. The Chancellor situation has exposed cracks Sally can no longer ignore, pledges made and broken, fidelity assumed but no way proven. There's frustration in her voice when she hints that she's done timber defenses for Billy's jest. This time, she's choosing strategy over sentiment. Sally reveals her plan to reach out to Jill Abbott and assemble her own defensive circle around Abbott dispatches, and that includes trying to vend Jill on Audra as an implicit new hire, someone sharp, ruthless when demanded, and fiercely pious if duly valued. For Audra, it's both an occasion and a test, one that could review her future if she doesn't sabotage herself first. Meanwhile, across City at Society, Abby Winters is deep in discussion with Devon Winters, agitating the unsettling attack on Newman Enterprises and how the power dynamics in Genoa City feel to be shifting yet again. Talk turns to Lily Winters and Kane Ashby's rearmost move, and Abby admits she wasn't surprised. Kane has always thrived on dislocation, and Lily knows better than anyone how far he's willing to go. Abby lightens the mood by mentioning plans to take Dominic ice skating laterally with Devon and some musketeers, eager to produce normal, happy recollections in a world that no way seems to stay calm for long. Once Abby heads out, Devon stays before and runs into Nate Hastings, taking the occasion to probe gently but pointedly about Nate's relationship with Victoria Newman. Devon's concern is clear, especially given how messy effects have been recently, but Nate shuts down any enterprise. He makes it clear that neither he nor Victoria is ready to date again, both still carrying scars from once dolor and backstabbings. Latterly, Nate meets up with Amy, who fills him in on her painful run heft with Audra. Despite everything, part of Amy still cares, still hopes Audra can find her way, and she asks Nate where he stands now. Nate doesn't waver, he doesn't trust Audra and isn't looking for love at all, but Amy gently pushes back, reminding him that closing himself off fully wouldn't bring peace, only loneliness. As these emotional swings ripple through Genoa City, Abby sits at the Domain Cafe with Dominic, warming their hands around mugs of hot cocoa as they stay for Devon and Dominic's musketeers to arrive. Abby speaks vocally to Dominic about their unique bond, admitting that he didn't grow inside her but averring that what they partake is real and special. She tells him how important they've in common, how super cool he is, and Dominic shafts, blissfully ignorant that peril is still circling near. In a stark discrepancy, Mariah Copeland sits alone in her motel room, writing in her journal, her studies dark and heavy. She convinces herself she doesn't earn the good effects in her life, that happiness with Tessa Porter and Aria Porter Copeland is erected on a taradiddle she can't keep buried ever. Indeed, if she tried to go back and pretend everything was fine, she's sure Tessa and Aria would see through her, would fate the verity she's too hysterical to say audibly. When Mariah realizes she doesn't have her old connections on her new phone, fear flickers, but also she remembers the one number she knows by heart. Abby's. Her cutlet hovers over the screen as mistrustfulness cataracts in. Should she really do this? Is she crossing a line she can no way uncross? In the end, coercion wins. Mariah calls. At the Domain Cafe, Abby notices the unknown number and answers, allowing it might be one of Dominic's musketeers' parents. Mariah hears Abby's voice, warm, familiar, ruinous, and hangs up without saying a word. Seconds laterally, Ian Ward appears, like a specter summoned by Mariah's weakness. He questions why she made the call, his tone deceptively calm, and when Mariah snaps that she doesn't need another lecture, Ian insists he's only offering guidance. He reminds her of the plan, of the purpose she formerly believed in, pushing her to recommit when she starts to waver. Ian claims it's the right time, that what needs to be can't stay any longer, and that he's there to make sure Mariah doesn't lose her wimwams now that she's so near. Under his grim pressure, Mariah heads to the domain to asset, snapping prints on her phone, Dominic laughing with Abby and Devon, Dominic skating, Dominic shortly alone. When she returns and shows Ian the filmland, he plays to her guilt and her crooked sense of power, telling her she made that family possible and that she doesn't get to back out now. He no way explicitly says the words, but the recrimination is chillingly clear. A Dominic hijacking is imminent. As Ian tightens the mesh around Mariah's psyche, Abby and Devon remain blissfully ignorant, laughing and relating with Dominic after his ice skating session, soaking in a moment of pure joy that feels heartbreakingly fragile. With Sally ready to burn islands and make new alliances, Audra standing at a crossroads of verity and deception, and Mariah teetering on the edge of an unbelievable act under Ian's influence, Genoa City is seconds down from a catastrophe that will shatter multiple families, and once it happens, nothing will ever be the same again. The pressure only thickens as Genoa City drifts deeper into a dangerous calm, the kind that settles right before everything explodes. Ignorant of the unnoticeable trouble stalking them, Abby and Devon loiter at the Domain Cafe with Dominic, laughing as he excitedly recounts every shuddery step and triumphant glide from the ice skating session. Devon flicks a short clip on his phone, promising to show it to Lily latterly, while Abby watches Dominic with a admixture of pride and tender-heartedness that fills her casket. This is what she fought for. Normality. Safety. Family. Yet just beyond the warmth of the cafe lights, Mariah Copeland stands partial retired, her breath shallow as she watches through her phone screen, each valve of the camera shutter echoing like a projectile in her heart. Every smile Dominic flashes feels like a blade ringing deeper, and when he reaches up to snare Abby's hand, Mariah's resoluteness nearly crumbles. She lowers the phone, her hand shaking, and whispers to herself that she can still walk down. That it's not too late. But Ian Ward's voice, smooth and grim, cuts through her studies like Bane honey, reminding her of everything she's lost, everything she believes she doesn't earn. He doesn't need to roar or hang, he simply reframes her pain as purpose, averring this as an atrocity but fortune, a correction of wrongs that no way healed duly. Back in the motel room, Ian paces sluggishly as Mariah returns, her eyes glassy as she hands over the phone. He studies the prints with disturbing satisfaction, pointing out angles, routines, moments of vulnerability. He talks about timing and occasion in abstract terms, as if they're planning a chess move rather of a crime that will devastate lives. Mariah demurs weakly, averring she no way agreed to this, not completely, but Ian counters by reminding her of all the moments she felt unnoticeable, interchangeable, cancelled. He tells her Dominic wouldn't be harmed, that children acclimatize, that she's uniquely good to cover him in ways others can't. With every word, he dismantles her resistance slip-up by slip-up, until mistrustfulness feels heavier than compliance. Meanwhile, across city, Sally Spectra sits alone in her suite, gaping out at the megacity skyline as she dials Jill Abbott's number. There's sword in her voice when Jill answers, a quiet resoluteness that signals this isn't a casual check heft. Sally lays out her enterprises about Billy with brutal honesty, admitting that she's reached a breaking point after too numerous bummers and too numerous negotiations she no way should have made. She explains her fears about Abbott dispatches being left exposed, vulnerable to internal chaos and external bloodsuckers, and outlines her vision for a new, tighter platoon, one erected on responsibility, not nostalgia. Jill listens precisely, asking pointed questions, and when Sally brings up Audra Charles as an implicit asset, there's a pause on the line. Sally doesn't oversell it, she acknowledges Audra's excrescencies but frames them as sharp edges that can be honed rather than arrears to be stressed. Jill isn't induced yet, but she's intrigued, and for Sally, that's enough. Hanging up, Sally exhales, knowing she's crossed a line she can't uncross. She's choosing herself and her future over a man who keeps proving he can't rise to the occasion. Away, Billy Abbott senses the shift before anyone tells him outright. The distance in Sally's textbooks, the cropped tone, the absence of consolation, it all riots futurity. He tries calling her, leaving a voicemail that's half reason, half explanation, promising he'll do better if she just gives him one further chance. but Sally doesn't call back. Rather, she pours a glass of wine and begins drafting contingency plans, formerly emotionally long hauls down. At Society, Nate Hastings sits across from Amy Lewis, replaying her words about Audra in his mind. He insists he's forfeiture on his own, that he doesn't need to renew old injuries or invite new chaos into his life, but Amy sees through the bravado. She reminds him that walls erected for protection can come incarcerations if you're not careful, and though Nate doesn't admit it audibly, her words loiter long after they part ways. As night settles in, Abby tucks Dominic into bed at the Chancellor estate, kissing his forepart and promising him another delightful day hereafter. Devon lingers in the doorway, smiling vocally, thankful for moments like this that feel uncomplicated and real. Neither of them notices the strange auto situated down the road, nor the shadowy figure inside watching the lights go out. Back at the motel, Mariah sits on the edge of the bed, clinging her journal as gashes band down her face. She writes furiously, apologizing to Tessa and Arya in essay she knows they'll no way read, confessing fears she's too shamed to state. Ian watches from the corner, case and raptorial, staying for the moment her grief tips completely into rendition. He tells her hereafter will be the day, that everything will eventually make sense once it's done. When Mariah asks, voice slightly above a tail, what happens after, Ian smiles in a way that sends a bite straight through her, answering that after is when she'll eventually feel whole again. As dawn approaches, Genoa City rests uneasily, ignorant that by this time hereafter, a child will be missing, alliances will fracture, and the line between victim and villain will blur beyond recognition. Sally will wake determined to rebuild without Billy, Audra will face the consequences of trueness she keeps dodging, and Mariah Copeland will stand at the edge of an unrecoverable choice, one that will hang her, and everyone she loves, for the rest of their lives. Morning breaks over Genoa City with a brittle stillness, the kind that feels wrong in your bones indeed before anything terrible actually happens. At the Chancellor estate, Abby moves still through the kitchen, humming under her breath as she packs Dominic's small pack with snacks and gloves, formerly planning another cozy spin to keep the joy of history alive. Devon pours coffee, watching her with a soft smile, thankful for the meter they've set up together after so important bouleversement. Dominic toddles in, still half asleep but agitated, prattling about groaning again and whether they can get the good cocoa latterly. Abby laughs, ruffling his hair, promising him a perfect day. None of them notice the way her phone buzzes compactly on the counter, an unknown number lighting the screen for an alternate before going dark again. Across city, in the banal light of a cheap motel room, Mariah Copeland jolts awake from an agony she can't relatively flash back, her heart pounding as if it's trying to escape her casket. For one transitory moment, she doesn't know where she is, and in that splinter of confusion, she nearly feels free. Also Ian Ward's calm, infuriating voice cuts through the haze, reminding her that moment is important, that clarity comes through action, not vacillation. He speaks gently, as if soothing a child, telling her she looks exhausted and that it's accessible, big days frequently feel like this. Mariah presses her triumphs into her eyes, fighting the appetite to scream, to run, to call Tessa and confess everything. Rather, she nods, because seesawing feels easier than arguing, and because Ian has an answer for every mistrustfulness she dares to state. He insists this isn't about discipline or vengeance but about correcting a story that went awry, about giving Dominic what Mariah no way had someone who would no way abandon him. The words worm their way into her casket, mixing with her guilt until she can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Meanwhile, Sally Spectra strides into Abbott Dispatches with a confidence that feels nearly rehearsed, her heels clicking like punctuation marks on a judgment she's eventually finishing. She keeps effects rigorously professional with Billy, agitating schedules and deliverables without formally admitting the emotional landmines between them. Billy senses it incontinently, the emotional pullout, the way she doesn't rise to his jokes or soften when he apologizes again. He tries to rein her, asking if they can talk, really talk, but Sally shuts it down with a cool smile and a pledge to follow up latterly. Outside, her resoluteness hardens. She's done waiting for Billy to come the man he keeps averring he wants to be. If guarding Abbott Dispatches means standing alone, or standing with new abettors, so be it. Across the megacity, Audra Charles sits in her auto outdoors crimson lights, replaying Amy's words in her head until they soak worse with every reiteration. Remission has no way come fluently to Audra, either giving it or entering it, and being told she has to earn it hits a whim-whams she didn't know was still exposed. When Holden textbooks her commodity snarky, commodity loaded, she deletes it without replying, suddenly apprehensive of how numerous loose ends she's left hanging. For the first time in a long while, Audra wonders what would be if she stopped lying, stopped diverting, and just told the verity. The study terrifies her nearly as important as the volition. Back at society, Nate Hastings runs into Devon, and their discussion drifts back to family, to trust, to how snappily effects can go awry when you assume the stylish of people. Nate